Make sure that there. Should get this there. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Beta Alpha Psi meeting. Today we have Kiegh Dudley and we have former BAP New Sigma alumni and FDU Silberman alumni Emily Sickinger here to come and speak to us today. Please give your undivided attention. Let's ask a lot of questions. And from all of us here at BAP, welcome back, Emily, and welcome back to FDU Silberman. So that being said, I'll let you guys take it over from here.
Thank you for Kiegh Dudley. I'm a senior campus recruiter here at CohnReznick. I'm also a licensed CPA, so most of my career was actually spent on the client service side. I started my career here in insurance as well. After several busy seasons, I believe, in insurance, ended up transitioning over to one of our advisory groups, where I did some mergers and acquisitions consulting for about 2 years. So again, that's where I spent the bulk of my career on the client service side, but then realized the partner track was no longer where I saw myself long term. I sought out other alternatives where my experience is still valuable, but I get to do more of the things that I genuinely enjoy on a daily basis. And so that's what led me to making the transition to the side of things, and how I landed my current role here. But I will go ahead. We do have a formal presentation set up as well, although I'd really love this to be as informal as possible, and we may need your help with that, right? And so I'll just go ahead and share this.
Because we have people at Metro as well that are listening to this, so.
Thank you. Perfect. And so we're here today really to sort of give you an inside look at CohnReznick. Who are we as a firm, right? And so before we jump in, is anyone in the room well, I know the answer to this, sort of rhetorical because I know some of you, but who in the room is familiar with CohnReznick as a firm? All right, perfect. And so when you're hearing CohnReznick, what comes to mind? Is it the first thought, some of the professionals you met, some alumni you happen to know? Is it, I was an intern there? Is it, you just happen to hear of us? What comes to mind when you hear CohnReznick? Anyone?
Don't be shy, guys. Don't be shy.
Yeah, Kenny.
I was an intern there last busy season.
Yes.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. And then anything else that comes to mind when you think of CohnReznick now?
Yeah. You guys are like really emphasize like teamwork and stuff like throughout your operations and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, I know you attended our accounting career exploration program in our Parsippany office. That was a couple weeks ago as well. And so, yes, you got sort of an inside look already in terms of who we are as a firm, our culture, etc. I know we had another hand raised. Elliot, you had something else to add?
I would say something that comes to mind is you are a public account firm. I don't know, I have the idea that it's trying, CohnReznick is trying to get there in the Big Four, kind of like in there, or maybe top.
Yeah, so no, good point. We are a leading public accounting firm. We do provide many of the same services, right? So we're in the space of advisory, assurance, as well as tax. We aren't a Big Four firm. There are certain levels in terms of sheer size, right? And so we'll get into some of the differences in terms of size, et cetera. But to put things into perspective, right? CohnReznick, and I'll get into like more of our introduction now, as also sort of aided by the visuals you see on the screen. But we are a public accounting firm that really runs the gamut in terms of the services we're able to offer. Again, both of Emily and I's background happens to be in assurance. I also did transition into advisory, and I'll get into the advisory service line further down the presentation, but we also offer our tax services as well. And so just to bounce around a bit, again, very informal, but those are just words, right? What is tax? What is assurance? What is advisory at this point? And so when we're on campus and interacting with you as students and sort of trying to get a feel for what service line you might be interested in, oftentimes you have maybe a small glimpse in terms of the nature of the work you'll be seeing, et cetera, especially within advisory. And this slide starts to touch on the fact that advisory is just really a big general term. There's a lot of specialty areas within advisory or consulting. They're one and the same. Some firms call it consulting, some firms call it advisory. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, what it all means is you're helping clients solve their toughest business challenges, right? They either don't have the resources in-house to tackle those challenges themselves, or they don't have the personnel, right? So it's either expertise or personnel to help tackle these challenges. And so what they do is come to firms like us who do have deep industry expertise, as well as ample resources to help them navigate some of those challenges. So that's what advisory is in terms of a broad career path. But you can see just from the slide here, within that, there's a lot of nuance to it. And so me in particular, I just worked in our transactional advisory services group, right? Where we dealt with, again, mergers and acquisitions consulting. But we have a ton of other groups, depending on your interest, that yield opportunities for you as a student or throughout your career to get involved with. But nonetheless, a background in accounting, finance, computer science, et cetera, there's a lot more diversity in terms of the educational backgrounds a career in advisory can lend itself to, as compared to things like assurance or audit, as well as tax. From a recruiting standpoint, just keep in mind, those do tend to be more geared towards your CPA track students, so those with an accounting foundation in school, okay? So just some food for thought, but circling back, right, to who we are as a firm. So now you know the services essentially we're providing or the nature of the work you might get exposed to in those different career paths. But who we are, again, we're a team of over 4,000 employees, including over 300 partners spread across 30 cities in the US. Our newest office, Denver, just opened earlier. Well, sorry, we're in 2024 now. In 2023, apologies. And so, yes, we are in 30 cities across the US. What's convenient for you to maybe hear today, given we are presenting for FDU, is our two closest locations to where you are currently would be our Parsippany, New Jersey office, which you're based out of, right? And we also have another New Jersey office in Homedale, okay? But we are headquartered in New York City.
And if you happen to like work in the New York office as an intern or whatever while you're here, it's very quick train ride. The train is right there, quick walk, and not a bad walk. Like from the train to the office, I don't mind it at all. So if you want to like take a slow walk and get coffee and just enjoy what the city has to offer, do it.
So yes, so in terms of our geographic span, again, this covers where we are throughout the US, but we're also able to service clients internationally, right? I had the pleasure of actually doing a couple jobs internationally, which was really nice. And the reason I'm highlighting that is one, to again show you that a firm of our size, although not a big four, right? If you are seeking those sorts of opportunities, they are possible as well at a firm like CohnReznick. I've had team members who've gone to Germany for work. I've personally gone to Canada a couple of times. Another team member in advisory got to go to Belgium, et cetera. And so a subsidiary for one of my SEC clients, actually, when I was in assurance, they had a satellite office in Norway that the partner, manager, and the senior at the time were able to travel to as well. So again, there are those opportunities to travel internationally, potentially for work. at a firm like a CohnReznick also. And a lot of that is through our affiliation with Nexia International. And so essentially what that is, it's a global alliance of firms that basically partner together so we can perform and offer consistent and unified service to our clients abroad, right? And so we happen to be the largest member firm in Nexia International. We play an active role in the board. We help train new member firms that join actually. And so what that does is, again, give us a network to provide services to clients in over 120 countries, which is fantastic. Circling back, also want to highlight in terms of sheer numbers, you know, especially if you're into accounting, finance, et cetera, you like to see the numbers, right? We are a $1 billion firm at this point. And so just to put that into perspective in terms of the revenue we're bringing in as a firm, we have crossed the $1 billion threshold. And so if that helps you in terms of, you know, mentally place us in your mind, in terms of a certain tier of firms, et cetera, wanted to pass that along as well, okay? And so I'll pause here for a second to see if anything I've shared already sparked any initial questions. Anything in the chat? No? Okay, fair enough. And so before we even get into this, right, I have this on the slide for a reason, but I'm interested, obviously I'm a recruiter, but I've also been in this profession now for several years, right? And I've gone through the process of coming out of school, figuring out what firm I want to join. To this day, on a daily basis, we're assessing why are we still here, right? Why do we choose CohnReznick as an employer? What's important to you? I'll keep this open for those of you on the Zoom or in the room as you're going through that decision-making process now. Like, what firm do I want to intern with or work for full-time after graduation? What's important to you? And Emily, just so you're aware, I'm going to ask you as well. But if you want to start, actually, we can start there, give them a little more time.
So when I first started the internship search, when I was a student here, I was very overwhelmed by the thought of a large company. So I started small, and I liked that I got to interact with people all the time. Didn't love what I was doing there, but I knew that, okay, like the people were important to me. And then I interned at CohnReznick, and that just kind of was solidified the more I got into my internship, especially because it was kind of unique given that it was in a COVID environment. So I didn't go to the office at all. I could only talk to people via Teams. So people were really great at making connections with me and making me feel included, even though I was an intern. I was sitting in my bedroom. And then that summer I interned at a Big Four, and the people that I worked with were great, but I felt like I only worked with the people on my team, and I didn't get the opportunity to interact with anybody else. And I was like, well, if it comes time where I want to transition and do something else here, like I'm not going to have these relationships. And so ultimately I felt most at home at CohnReznick. And now that I've been working here for a year and a half, like that just is still so true. And it's really the people that I work with that make me want to get up every day and do my job. I do love what I do and I find it interesting, but it's the people that I work with that are definitely the difference.
Yeah. And just to give you a couple more minutes, I hope you are thinking though, what's important to me as I figure out companies to pursue, et cetera. But for me, back when I was a student, there were a couple factors I was weighing in, right? One was definitely the people I got to interact with, as well as the general vibe I was getting from them. Do I feel like I belong? Would I feel comfortable working amongst them? When I stepped foot into the office, did I feel like there was a connection there, like I could truly be my authentic self, right? So that was one thing. But also for me, it was prestige, right? I do want to take pride in the firm I choose to work for. And so, when you hear that, you may think of certain firms and not others, et cetera. And so that's really what led me to put this slide together, right? Because it does show that it's not just maybe larger firms or certain niche firms that have the accolades that, you might feel proud to be, associated with. For me, I do take pride in the awards and acknowledgements we've gotten as a firm throughout the years, from everything from our recruiting team being, named an early talent award winner consistently from Handshake, because we really do have a good grasp of how to engage with Gen Z talent, as well as things like being a certified great place to work, or consistently named as one of, well, actually the past couple of years, the only public accounting firm on Newsweek's list of most loved workplaces, right? Those are things I take pride in. I love hearing that. That's a firm I do want to work for, and why I continue to get excited to work for this firm. But even the Vault rankings, right? So I happen to lead, and I'll get into diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging on future slides as well. But I happen to lead the diversity committee on our recruiting team, right? And so for me, the fact that we are ranked in the top 5 for 3 major diversity categories, according to the 2024 rankings of Vault, we take pride in that, as well as overall prestige and overall ranking as a public accounting firm, being within the top 10. Those are things, those are things we do take pride in as an organization. And so it's not just from our recruiting efforts, it's based on our culture. We have a top ranked internship program and some industry associations that are obviously important to our clients, et cetera, as well. We've gotten notable mentions in, right? And then everything up to leadership. Our CEO was just named actually one of the top 200 CPAs, according to Forbes. Those are things we take pride in, right? He's the face of our firm. He is, our appointed CEO, newly reelected, et cetera. And so I personally take pride in working for a firm that does have some of those accolades. And so again, for me, prestige, the people, the culture, those are all things I was looking at, as well as where can I have the most impact the soonest, right? That was big for me. And so as much as I valued the reputation of the firm I was joining, it was just as important to me to choose a firm where I was able to build a reputation for myself earlier on in my career, right? And so what I mean by that is, do I have direct access to leadership as an intern or as an entry-level associate, right? And I can say in full confidence, we do have that at CohnReznick. Some of our past interns can probably attest to that as well. One, even from the way our offices are sort of laid out, it's a lot of glass, especially in particular offices. One, because the modern look, but also it highlights our open door policy, right? Meaning you should feel comfortable and encouraged, truthfully, to pop in, knock first. Obviously, let's be respectful, but you can knock on anyone's door or cubicle, essentially, and ask, to chat for a minute, catch up. If it's talking about work, obviously that's fantastic. If it's just making an introduction to a partner in the office, all of that's encouraged, right? And that's what I loved about working for this firm. I get to build those relationships as early on as I take the initiative to at a firm like CohnReznick, right? Funny story. I was in the New York City office a few weeks back, spending some time with our winter interns, and there was a board meeting going on. That's essentially the group that governs the future direction and strategy of our firm. And so the CEO was there, several of the other partners who were on the board of directors, et cetera. And I happened to walk past the cafeteria as they were grabbing lunch. And I happened to know all of them on a first name basis. And we were catching up as though, we were even remotely close in level or experience. And so those are the sort of opportunities that I personally appreciate, the fact that I can have these personal connections with our CEO, with, our Long Island office managing partner, Mike Monahan, who in large part was the reason I did choose CohnReznick. I happened to meet him on campus. He shared his story about coming from a Big Four firm, switching over to CohnReznick, his motivations for doing so, et cetera. And to this day, he's been just as personable, just as approachable as he was when I first met him as a student. And those are the sort of dynamics I value and appreciate, right? And so again, for me, it was prestige. It was the reputation I can build for myself. Like the fact that I'm able to meet these leaders early on in my career not only helped in terms of feeling comfortable at the firm, but it also helped with my career trajectory. As I mentioned, I made a few pivots along the way. And in large part, that was available to me as an opportunity because I was able to network with individuals on the teams I had a slight interest in before I even made the commitment to join officially, right? And so having that level of access and insight into everything else going on at the firm, there's really no boundaries in terms of who you're able to connect with, what you're able to learn about what's going on here. And I think that's important for me, at least.
I agree. It's I think it's a little daunting when you like start your first day anywhere. Especially when there's so many people and you have this like hierarchy in your mind, right? Of like who's who and who do you think you're gonna talk to and whatever. But over time, like especially at CohnReznick, like everybody like wants to know everybody, and like there's not a single person that I would say like doesn't have my back. And it's really nice. Like this morning I got to the office and I was sitting there doing work, and then a partner came in and she just like pulled up a chair and was like, hey, what's going on? So like it's so nice that you can like have these experiences and not feel like, uncomfortable about it. Like it's so normal. It's really nice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so now that we've gone through what was important to us as a student, figuring out what firm to join or why we still choose to work for this firm, have we thought of any other things we haven't already named that's important to you personally in terms of the company you're looking to work for? Brian, go.
I would say like for me, I would feel like I want to see like where I would be able to fit in long term. So, like it kind of goes somewhere what you guys are saying, but you know, like I mean, like I don't know exactly which route I feel I want to go to yet. So for doing it, I'm just more like, well, I see myself being successful there. Can I see myself fitting in what you said? Can I see myself growing and being more long term? So that's kind of what I think about looking for a relationship with someone.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have anything? Can you go ahead?
Probably somewhere where like you can climb the ladder pretty quickly and not be stuck in one spot.
Okay. Kenny's trying to make moves. Okay. I like it. I like it. Anything else that's important? I know a couple of us are in accounting majors, right? So what are those of you who are pursuing a CPA track interested in from the company you plan to work for?
That aren't pursuing a CPA?
Yes.
I would say, well, I would want to be at a company that would give me a good enough experience for me to sell myself to another company if I were to want to move.
Okay.
So particularly like companies with a lot of different divisions doing a lot of different things. Or alternatively, like companies with really like strict and selective hiring processes, like to your point, the prestige.
Yeah.
I think that would really matter. So if I wanted to jump ship and go somewhere else, it's a really strong selling point for my resume.
Absolutely. Exit opportunities. That's a big one, right? Yes. Some people, and I'll bring it back to public accounting, sorry, but the profession historically, right? A lot of people used to be, no, you do a couple of years and you're out, right? Use it as a springboard to, you know, sort of get you to that next position you ultimately see for yourself longer term. Some people still have that mindset, and that's perfectly fine, right? I thought I was going to be an audit partner here a few years ago. That changed, and that happens quite often for people. Sometimes they actually stick to accounting though. Other times you go through a few changes like I did, and you end up in HR technically, but nonetheless, exit opportunities are important. And so that's certainly something I've heard come up a lot in terms of why you're choosing particular companies or firms to join right out of school. Yeah. So before I move on, was there anything else we want to throw out that's top of mind as we look for companies to join?
So none of them said money.
No one said money. I was going to leave it alone. We all know it's important. But
I'm just afraid to say, yeah.
thank you. It's important. It probably goes without saying, or maybe you just didn't want to be the one to throw it out there, and that's perfectly fine. But yeah, I mean, we all care about the quality of life we're able to live, and the compensation you're getting plays a large part in that. And so we're well aware that's one of the criteria you'll probably use to make an ultimate decision. And everyone's situation is obviously different. And so that should be a factor. For some people, it's more of a factor, less than a factor than others, etc. But nonetheless, it's absolutely important. And so, yeah, don't want to mislead you in thinking that that shouldn't be something you're taking into account. And so we mentioned, again, who we are as a firm, but in continuing on with that conversation, I wanted to highlight, all right, if part of your decision criteria is what industries would I be able to get exposure to, et cetera, this slide's really helpful with that. And so before we even jump in, I don't know if you mind sharing what industries you've gotten exposure to?
Yeah, sure. As an intern, I split my time. So I was in like the hospitality industry for a little bit. I worked on a big hotel group as an intern, and then I worked on some like different like recycling companies, and then I also worked in financial services as an intern. And then when I started here, I was put into the financial services group. So my clients are hedge funds and private equity funds.
And so my professional background, just personally, before I get into who we are as a firm and what we service. So I spent the majority of my career working in the CHAMP practice, right? So that's an acronym we use here at the firm, stands for Consumer, Hospitality, and Manufacturing. And so within that, though, I did specialize primarily in retail and consumer products. Definitely a lot of fashion and apparel, just because that was a personal interest of mine. And I used it as a way to sort of bridge the gap between my profession and one of my passions, right? I'm a city guy. I love the fashion scene in New York, et cetera. And so for me, that was one of those decision criteria as well. What firms operate in the space I genuinely have an interest in, right? And I'm happy to say CohnReznick was one. In fact, part of the reason I ended up choosing the firm after the interviews, despite having multiple offers, was thinking back on the nature of the conversations I had throughout the course of the interview. And honestly, my second interviewer, we spent the majority of the time talking about fashion and apparel. And when I'm processing it all after the fact, it's like, one, who did I feel the most comfortable interacting with? What office could I see myself working in? But then what were those conversations like, right? Was it a bit more high strung, or were we able to get into, things that genuinely interest me? Was I able to get confirmation on the fact that, yeah, we operate in a couple industries you're highly interested in, et cetera. And so those are some of the little things. Again, as you're going through that decision-making process, you might just want to consider. But as a firm, although we primarily operated in, CHAMP as well as financial services, you got some exposure to. We really do run the gamut in terms of the industries we service. Truthfully, it's a lot easier for me to remember the industries we don't service than the ones we do. That's how I go about thinking about it. And so before I unveil the answers, what industries sitting in this room right now would you say, oh, I have a high interest in learning more about or working in the future? Yeah.
I have a question for Emily. You said you worked in financial services and that your clients are hedge fund managers. What do you really do with these people? Like, do you negotiate, or what do you?
No, so we audit their financial statements. So a lot of these funds have admins that are the ones that do their books and records, and then they prepare their financial statements for them. So we get all the information. We do an audit where we pretty much make sure that their partner's capital balance is fairly presented, their valuations are all okay, like the risk there is of overstatement, so we make sure that that's not happening. And for like we do cash like every other audit. maybe at whatever industry, so yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead.
I'm guessing, CohnReznick has a handful of, clients that are in the PCAOB sector. Like, is it true, or like, is there like a lot of those clients that you work like in the financial services?
Great question. So as a firm, right? And I'll put it into perspective for you because I like adding value. I'm not just here to promote CohnReznick. I want to deliver value for you, right? And so if you're looking specifically to work with PCAOB clients or publicly traded companies, SEC clients, they're all the same way of saying the same thing. Nonetheless, companies like Big Four firms, that's essentially all they deal with, right? Fortune 200 companies, Fortune 500 companies across the board, right? And so what that translates into is it requires larger engagement teams, et cetera. And so you do become a bit more specialized in terms of what you're able to see earlier on in your career, just given the fact that there are team members to take care of other aspects of the audit, right? So you may just see cash for several months working on an SEC client that's a Fortune 150 company, et cetera, right? Now, with that, it's great exposure. We're going back to exit opportunities, et cetera. What happens a lot of times is, especially at larger firms, you get to work on those high profile type clients. They often leave and go take a job within the accounting department, for instance, at one of those large Fortune 500 companies. And so just trying to connect all the dots here. But yes, to your question now, do we have exposure to those same clientele at a firm like a CohnReznick? Yes. I've personally worked on SEC clients back when I was in audit as well as advisory. And what I will say is that won't be the bulk of your workload. The majority of the clients we service, which span from anything from high net worth individuals all the way up to Fortune 500 companies, but the bulk of our clientele are privately owned. And so, yes, there are opportunities to get exposure to SEC clients, but that may be, a couple of your clients per year as opposed to all you're going to see, okay? And so again, if you're looking for things like diversified exposure to different size clients in different industries, et cetera, a firm like a CohnReznick might be something to consider. But if you're well aware of the fact that maybe, you're jumping in for the short term, you kind of want to use it as a springboard, et cetera, perhaps you weigh that into your decision-making process and you look to only work on these high profile clients that you eventually see yourself working for, okay? To that point, what I will say is the advantage though of a firm like a CohnReznick would be that because you do get that diversified exposure earlier on in your career, so you're not just seeing cash your whole internship, right? You might see cash, fixed assets, accounts payable, et cetera. What that does is makes you more valuable in the market, even if you were to try and leave, right? Because as you're going for that next position, maybe you're switching over to private accounting now, you can speak to your level of expertise and what you've seen throughout your career in a lot more depth than what we seem to find at the larger firms, just because, again, they're slower to get exposure to a lot of different areas. And so, again, just to put things into perspective for you, in case that's helpful, something else for you to think about. And just quickly before I move on from the industries, actually, bringing it back to where we are geographically. So we're actually in a great position, given we are in what we consider our New York metro area. So all of our New York offices, as well as New Jersey, really lends itself to just about every industry we service here at the firm. And what that does is presents great opportunities to, again, get that exposure you might be looking for, but also gives you the chance to perhaps quite frequently run into some of our national industry leaders. And so, for example, our life sciences industry leader, Ravi, he's based out of our Parsippany, New Jersey office. Our law firm's practice leader, Rocco, he's based out of our Homedale, New Jersey office. Our champ leader that we mentioned earlier, her name's Cindy McLaughlin. She's based out of our Long Island office, but again, travels quite frequently between New York and New Jersey. And then we also have our commercial real estate leader. Commercial real estate is actually one of our bread and butter industries. We have a heavy root in real estate and affordable housing overall. Dating back to when our firm was founded in 1919, those were a couple of the foundational industries we operated in. And so our commercial real estate industry leader, although technically based out of New York City, he's a New Jersey resident. And so he spends most of his time truthfully sitting in Parsippany as well. And so again, the opportunities it provides to meet some of our national industry leaders on a regular basis, just by showing up to work, is, at least for me, exciting.
You honestly, you never know who you're gonna run into in the office. Kind of crazy, like, you just go get coffee and be like, oh, like, there's David Kessler, who's our CEO, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, touched upon it before, DEIB, it's big here at CohnReznick. If you're looking to know who we are as a firm, this is certainly something I don't want to overlook. What I'll boil it down to here is the fact that as a firm, we are committed to making sure, again, we are all comfortable bringing our authentic selves to work on a daily basis. We feel as though creating that sense of belonging to the company you work for allows you to take pride in it. It promotes better results for our clients, truthfully, because we're getting different perspectives, people from different walks of life, all contributing on teams, which ultimately present unified solutions to our clients. And so some of the ways we go about promoting these DEIB efforts are through our various employee resource groups, for example, which are just internal networks here at the firm based off of maybe different lifestyle choices or interests, as well as different racial and ethnic backgrounds, right? And the benefits of joining anyone, which is open to all CohnReznick team members, from interns all the way up through partners. But the benefits of joining, truthfully, and I'm involved with several because I am mixed race. And so I get the benefits of getting additional mentorship, coaching, networking opportunities. And I get to connect with people I may or may not work with on a daily basis because they may not be on my team or work within my respective office, et cetera, right? And to further sort of expand on that point, it's not just our employee resource groups that provide those opportunities. We have industry groups here at the firm as well. Like, let's say you're ready to specialize and you know, this is an industry I'm passionate about, really want to learn more about. You can join these industry groups at any level, connect with our industry leaders here at the firm to deepen your knowledge, get that additional coaching from them, etc. And that sets you up nicely for opportunities, because if you're pursuing a particular industry at the firm, having that visibility to the industry leaders in your office or nationally, you know, it serves you well in terms of your progression at the firm. So industry groups, employee resource groups, as well as just different committees and sports teams in the offices. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the ones.
They're starting a softball team, which.
Bringing it back.
Yes.
We had it pre-pandemic.
Okay.
We're starting to bring it back, yeah.
Actually, an entry level is like taking the lead on getting that back up and running. So you're never too young to put these opportunities out there. But even like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know like during Black History Month and Women's History Month, there were Music Mondays, and were they promoted by these groups?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it was like a nice like 30-minute call where everybody went on and just like had their microphones off, but music was playing, so it was like a good little like morale booster during busy season. So even if you're not like involved in one of these groups, to find like your sense of community, or like I said, like additional mentorship opportunities and networking opportunities, like at least going to these events, like you're still networking and also like doing something like decent as music and like simple as music, you know, during the season.
Absolutely. And to that point, right? So again, all levels are invited to participate in these sort of activities and events, but our Pride Employee Resource Group, for example, we looped the summer interns in last year to get them in on the fun, right? And so we had a national dance party throughout the country in honor of our Pride group, but to highlight really our inclusive environment. And so everything from a curated playlist highlighting artists within the LGBTQ+ community, to just the decor of the office. You know, it was a fun way. We played games, etc. Fun way just to really highlight the fact that we are inclusive as a firm and we want everyone to feel comfortable. You obviously don't have to not recognize, but consider yourself a part of that community. But our overall consensus here at the firm is we're welcoming to all walks of life. And so that's really what these sort of events and initiatives are there to promote. And these are actually pictures from our Homedale office, I can tell by the people in it. So keeping it all New Jersey, just wanted to sort of highlight some of that. If you were interested in learning more about our rankings specifically regarding diversity, you can certainly scan the QR code here to see more about that. But something else we're big on, again, is giving back to the community, right? And so we do that through a couple of ways. You know, not only do we do it through some of our employee resource groups that I mentioned on the previous slide, but also as a firm, we have sort of national initiatives we do as well, whether it be, you know, through our community service days. So what that is essentially a day. It's up to each office whether or not, you know, or when they plan them. But for instance, in New York City, coming up in June, we'll be having our next community service day. We're encouraging everyone to get out of the office. Really, it's not really a client work day. We want you out of the office and in the community. And so we'll do things from park cleanups to, you know, volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House, making food or delivering hot meals with an organization called like City Wheels, etc. So there's a lot of different things you can get involved with. Just to highlight again, the fact that we get everyone involved from interns all the way up. Some of the intern initiatives we got them involved with was our national Pay It Forward campaign. Essentially what that is every year, usually in the fall, but we did in the summer for our interns to be able to participate last year. We added a little extra to one of their checks and challenged them as an office team to put that money towards a good cause, right? They can get as creative as they want it with the idea, or they can keep it as simple as they want it, right? And so our Parsippany interns, for instance, highlighted at the top of the screen here, they ended up, you know, putting that money towards purchasing a bunch of non-perishable food items and ultimately donated it to the largest food pantry in Morris County, New Jersey, right? Whereas the Homedale interns shown on the bottom here, you know, they kept it really simple. They went to their favorite coffee shop over at Bellworks, where our office is located, and they just really paid it forward, right? They purchased coffee for other people coming in, as well as gave, you know, really nice tips to the staff there that service them on a regular basis. And so it's a national challenge, though, all employees do, whereby there's usually a competition as well at the end to see who can maybe stretch that money the most or do something the most out of the box with it. And so there are sometimes prizes, you know, to incentivize that sort of effort of going above and beyond with that.
Yes, around Thanksgiving too, they do give us additional money in our paycheck to pay it forward at that time of year. And I think there might be, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like people can pool their money and like there's a form or something, and then they can put it towards whatever cause of their choice. So that's always really nice to do.
Absolutely. And just to highlight further, we had a Blankets for Charity event this winter. Essentially what that was, we brought together our new associates as well as our winter interns to, first we showed them a how-to video because not everyone's that crafty. And so we had to first teach you how to make the blankets, but then, you know, collectively we were able to make some fleece-tied blankets. And just again, connecting the dots. We did it on March 8th, which, does anyone in the room happen to know what March 8th was this year? Yeah, okay. It was International Women's Day. So nonetheless, we partnered up with our CR Women Employee Resource Group in honor of International Women's Day. We made over 100 fleece blankets across the country, which were ultimately donated to local women's shelters and animal shelters. And so again, it can be the simplest of things, but it's something we're consistently doing all the way from interns through partners. And it's a big part of who we are. Honestly, it adds some fun to your internship experience. Obviously, we want you to get the great technical experience, the client work exposure, et cetera. But it's also just as important to expose you to our culture as a firm and what we deem to be important. And for us, that's really helping to improve the communities we not only work in, but also live in. So again, another internship, community service project. We had our previous winter interns do. It was a construction competition, again, nationally done. So every office throughout the US was challenged with one, fundraising in your local office to get donations of canned goods and non-perishable food items. And then we challenged them to build something with it that we then created a competition out of. And so in the top, our Homedale interns actually chose, they were trying to make a replica of the Bellworks Tower. And then our Parsippany interns last winter tried to come up with their own CohnReznick logo. And nonetheless, like our Long Island interns built a lighthouse. That was really impressive, actually, et cetera. But at the end of it all, although it turned out to be a fun intern competition, et cetera, what it really came down to was that we were able to donate over 4,000 canned good and non-perishable food items to local food banks and organizations that service people in need, right? And so it's a fun way of going about making an important impact. And at the root of it all, this is essentially what we're driven by, our pyramid values, so much so that we actually get awarded on a regular basis. So you can get an in the moment pyramid award, as well as on an annual basis, an annual pyramid award for doing something specific to either embody one or all of our pyramid values. Right? And what I can truly say is keeping these in mind will not only, well, I can say with high confidence as a recruiter, not only will embodying these pyramid values, one, get you the job in the first place, but any high performer at CohnReznick is likely embodying at the least one, but more often than not, multiple pyramid values at any given point in time on a consistent basis.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like it's kind of on a rolling basis. So you can get recognized in the moment. And it's really nice because like, yes, your team might know that you were recognized for that, but also we have a newsletter that goes out very regularly that will indicate like who is getting these awards. So everybody else can now see like your hard work and like recognize you for that as well.
And so when I asked the question initially, right, what's important to you when choosing a firm? I put together this slide because these are some of the common things I also get questions from students on, particularly in accounting, but some of it's still relevant, even if you're not interested in a public accounting firm, like time off or, leave, the resources or the investment companies make in terms of your continuing education, et cetera. Physical and mental health benefits, right? So, wellness reimbursement accounts. So that way we can cover our gym memberships or those random yoga classes you take, or even your salsa dance classes on the weekend to get your cardio in, right? Like all of that is really health and wellness related. The fact that we get free therapy sessions per year, as well as discounted rates on additional sessions. So that way, we reduce the risk of burnout. If we're having trouble with stress and anxiety, we have those resources available to us to help with that. We talked about some of the sports teams, or again, as a new associate, starting off with almost 40 days of paid time off and only increasing from there is pretty impressive, right? It's a lot of time to take advantage of. I love the fact that they added the couple break weeks. So around July 4th and Thanksgiving, you can speak to that if you want. But
July 4th week and Thanksgiving week, we have off for the entire week. The whole firm closes, which is really nice, especially 4th of July week, since my last deadline is June 30th. So it's a nice break. And then we have very good PTO to the point where I don't know what I'm going to do with it all, which is not a bad problem to have. Like I know friends in other areas that don't have enough. So, it's the PTO and our breaks that they give us are very generous.
absolutely. And so for me, right, you don't have to necessarily have a trip planned, although, you can, great, it's fantastic. But we still want you to take the time, right? Because again, you do sometimes get engulfed in your work. We're encouraging you to take that time so you can disconnect and refresh and come back and be as productive as you were before you left, right? And that's really the purpose of it. And we understand that work shouldn't just be your whole life. It's an important component of it. But you do need that time to step away and enjoy more of the things you like personally. So we have that. And yeah, with or without a trip plan, etc. Like what I often do, I tend to do like 1 or 2 big trips each year, but then you'll catch me after my interns are gone in the winter. I'll start taking like every Friday off or every Monday off just to get the days in throughout the year, etc. Honestly, working a 3 or 4 day work week, it's so much nicer because although you're not taking it all at once, it actually helps manage your work schedule throughout the year pretty well, to whereas I really feel fresh throughout. And so those are just some of the things I know are probably important to you, whether or not, it hits you yet. Just wanted to start to highlight some of that. Some of our CPA exam benefits as well, right? $10,000 completion bonus. We increased it. It was $5,000 when I passed. I don't know, was it 5? You're eligible. Oh yeah, you are. Good for you. You timed it right. So it was half that when I passed mine, right? But nonetheless, we realized there is a lot of time and effort that goes into tackling the exams. And so we upped the bonus to reward you for all of that. In addition to covering your study materials and the exam fees you have to pay to actually sit for the exam, etc. Right? So those are just some of the things, again, you may or may not be thinking about at this point that may be more important to you as time goes on. And the last thing here was just really our dress policy, right? Which for some people is very important. I like more of the relaxed environment we have. It's called our dress smart policy, whereby we can wear jeans in the office, etc. What it really does is empower you to dress for your day within reason, right? So we don't want people coming into the office still dressed like they're going to the gym or to the club, but we prefer, that, you keep it business smart or dress smart. And so these are some of the examples you could expect to see in the office at any given point in time, right? So to wrap things up here, you got to know us a bit better. In case any of that sparked interest in you in terms of exploring opportunities further with CohnReznick, I also wanted to call out some of the requirements, right? And so first and foremost, as I mentioned previously, for anything assurance or tax related, we are really looking for students in school who are on that CPA track, maybe they're heavily accounting focused and have plans to attain the 150 credits needed to become a licensed CPA. However, other business related fields, there are opportunities in areas like advisory or consulting that I mentioned earlier, right? What I will say though, just in full transparency, is that at the campus level, meaning for internships or full-time opportunities, the majority of our opportunities are within assurance and tax. There are opportunities in advisory or even specialty groups like IT audit that I recruit for. Those tend to be more limited, but nonetheless, we do have them. And so it's just a matter of how many opportunities, etc. But on a consistent basis, the bulk of our opportunities are in assurance and tax, okay? And so quickly, some of the initial screening criteria, if you're trying to assess, okay, am I more or less qualified to at least apply to this role? We're looking for good academic standing, in addition to, again, being on the right education track. Am I in good academic standing? So really anything above a 3.0 or so, you should feel pretty confident in applying, as well as it says here, internships. I'd actually reword that to say internships as well as transferable skills, right? Some people get that through internships. Other people might be getting that through leadership roles on campus. You might be getting that through part-time jobs while you're going to school, etc., which give you a skill set that does make you successful in public accounting, whether that be dealing with clients, whether that be managing your time, whether that be your leadership skills, your networking, etc. those are the sort of things and experiences we want you not only highlighting on your resume, but being able to add context to when you get in front of a CohnReznick professional, either in person or virtually, okay? And so if you feel like you meet those basic requirements, one, I encourage you to apply. You can check our early careers page, but also keep in mind the timelines, right? And so within public accounting, and this part isn't CohnReznick specific, this again is just general public accounting industry insight. Your 150 date for any accounting related role is going to be very important because that's how we determine what opportunities you're eligible for. And so for associate opportunities, for instance, we're looking for people. So if it's a 2025 associate role, meaning you're starting full-time in 2025, we want you to have completed your 150 credits by the end of 2025, okay? Whereas an internship, because that's sort of something to get you exposure to the industry, we look for students who are about a year out from their 150 credits. So for example, we'll be opening up our 2026 internships this fall, which is hard to believe we're in 2024, but that's how public accounting works. But nonetheless, for 2026 internships, we're looking for students who will be getting their 150 credits by 2027, okay? And so just wanted to share that insight, as well as the fact that we do offer both winter and summer internship programs, as well as early ID programs, right? So I mentioned the timelines, which are fairly strict with regards to your 150, but if you're too early for that process, we have programming throughout the year that we call early ID events. We just had one a couple of weeks ago in our Parsippany office, which is a combination of an early ID event as well as just a sort of office visit, get to know us. But stay tuned for more of those throughout the year and future years, because we use those again to get you, in a CohnReznick office where you really get a feel for who we are as a firm and get to engage with us in more so of an intimate setting. And it gives great insight again in terms of where you could potentially see yourself working in the future, right? And so to make it easy, there is a QR code on the screen. If interested, feel free. All you have to do is take out your phone, take a picture of it. You can check it out later, or go ahead to the link now for any of our upcoming early ID, internship, or full-time opportunities. And then lastly, just wanted to also give you access to our New York Metro campus recruiting team. So again, I'm Kiegh Dudley. Again, when I come to campus, I represent the firm in general, but on the back end, I handle our assurance recruiting efforts as well as IT audit for all of New York and New Jersey. But my colleagues, Johnette and John, on the back end, at least, they handle the tax as well as advisory recruiting for the firm here in New York and New Jersey. All right. But that was really all I had prepared. I hope that was insightful, not just for those of you interested in CohnReznick or even public accounting, but things to start thinking about in general. Did we have any questions though before we wrap up? Yeah, go ahead.
Something like the last slide, CPA consent program study materials. I know you mentioned the bonus, but do you offer like actually just want to better, I guess, in terms of.
Yes. So some of our key benefits related to the CPA exam is from the time you accept a full-time offer with CohnReznick, meaning you don't even have to start with us full-time yet, but from the time you accept your offer, we give you access to your study materials at no cost to you, right? So we partner with 3 of the largest CPA review companies, Becker, Surgeons, and UWorld Roger. And if you have an interest in using any of those 3 companies' products, all you have to do is accept your full-time offer with CohnReznick. You can get access to those materials well before you even start working with us full-time, which is great because what that does is actually set you up nicely then to get our $10,000 completion bonus, which we pay out for those who complete the CPA exam within the first year of joining the firm full-time, or if you pass before you join the firm, okay? So we cover the cost of your study materials. We have a great bonus once you do complete all 4 parts of the CPA exam, as well as upon submitting proof you passed all 4 parts. Not only do you get the bonus, but we also reimburse you for the exam fees you had to pay out of pocket to sit for those 4 sections you passed. And so at a high level, you've essentially paid nothing to study for the exam, to potentially sit for the exam, and you have a $10,000 bonus potentially at the end of that, on top of everything I've already mentioned. And we also have a support community with like ambassadors in each office, basically, who volunteer to sort of give insight in terms of everything from how to sign up and register for the exam, all the way through to like strategies or, you know, what order to take them in, or, you know, things to think about as you're going through the study process, etc. Okay. So those are some of the comprehensive CPA benefits we were talking about. Right? Yeah, you're welcome. And additional paid time off. Sorry, last thing. So did just want to mention that, you know, specifically for the CPA exam, we do also offer 5 days worth of additional PTO hours for you to use flexibly, whether that's to get some last minute studying in for the CPA exams, or just use it for the days you actually go and take the exams. It's completely up to you how and when you use it, but you also get an additional 5 days worth of PTO hours to use on top of your regular paid time off and all of our firms' paid time off. Okay.
Lots of questions on Zoom. All right, then, thank you so much for coming in today.
Sure. Thank you for coming out. There are some giveaways here. If you're interested, feel free to grab on the way out. But I definitely appreciate you taking the time to come to get to know CohnReznick a bit better. I'll hang around for a few minutes as well in case you had any questions you wanted to ask one-on-one, but really appreciate the opportunity.